On to week 8 is the Houston Texans, San Francisco 49ers on the road against a familiar opponent in DeMeco Ryans. Who's got the advantage? Kyle versus DeMeco, and what the 49ers must do to defeat the Houston Texans in week 8 on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for making this your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Love our everydayers. Thanks for hanging with us. Getting ready for week 8 here. The Houston Texans. It's going to be a good one. It's probably going to be a little ugly, a little bit of a grind. We'll get into the reasons why on today's episode. Keys to victory as we do, getting prepared for the next opponent. And I want to thank everybody for stopping in, making this your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. And if you're new to the program, welcome. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can hang out with us every day talking Niner football on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. And today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Mazda. Like the players on the field, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Croc. DeMeco Ryans. I fully believe in DeMeco Ryans as a coach. I talked with John Hickman, the host of Locked On Texans, for our crossover yesterday. And you know, I think a lot of people still believe, but the record is the record. And folks are wondering what the heck is going on with that team in Houston that should be better than 2-4 right now. They've had their bye already. The 49ers coming in at 5-2. And I'm like, man, you got to be ecstatic about DeMeco Ryans, the way the defense is playing. They can't figure out what's going on offense. You think they have a star quarterback. He's not playing like a star. They went through Bobby Slowick. They've gone through another offensive coordinator now. The offensive line's been bad. They're trying to revamp that. They've got former 49ers and Trent Brown and Laken Tomlinson that are backups now to the younger players that they're trying to get ingrained into their system and playing better football. It's just a mess on the offensive side of the football, but maybe the best defense in the NFL that the 49ers are facing on Sunday. So it's going to be a really interesting game. And if you are looking at this football game, and I want to talk about some injuries and some other things, and it is looking like it's going to be Mac Jones once again. What is your biggest thought this week for the 49ers against the Houston Texans?
Oh, I think biggest thought for the 49ers, outside of stay healthy, of course, because I know we're all praying for that. No, I think it's keep quarterback upright, be able to pass protect. And I think it has to start there. And I guess the best way to be able to help pass protect is to slow down a pass rush by being able to run. So, okay, scratch that. Let's start there. The biggest thing is the 49ers being able to run the ball. They did an exceptional job last week. The O-line was moving bodies. They were opening up holes. Christian McCaffrey, he looked refreshed, right? He was running well. He's like, oh, what's this? Space. I haven't seen this in a long time. All right, we need that version of the run game back again. So first and foremost, I think that's what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. Hey, let's establish the run game.
We should start there because it's something that the 49ers really got cooking last week, and it was such a huge aspect of the 49ers beating the Atlanta Falcons and stopping the run on defense, running the ball on offense. And it's really the first time all season, Croc, that we had seen Christian McCaffrey able to get to the second level. And I say able to get to because it's not Christian McCaffrey's fault he couldn't get to the second level in a lot of these games. He actually had some yards before contact in this one, and it was fun to see. And they were cooking, and they went straight downhill. And if you're going to attack the Houston Texans defense, and it is one of the better defense in the league, it's number 1 in the NFL in scoring defense. They're allowing only 14.7 points per game. I think it is the only team in the league that's allowing less than 15 points per game. The Niners, just under 20 points per game, are number 7 in the NFL in scoring difference and scoring defense. And if you look at, DVOA, or you look at EPA per play, the 49ers are a little closer to the middle, and the Texans are still one of the better units, maybe not number 1, but among the top units in the NFL, which is hard to do when your offense is giving the ball back to the defense all the time too. So, but when it comes to the run game, can the 49ers do to the Texans what they did to the Atlanta Falcons last week, or is the run game going to look like the 3.2 yard per carry unit that we've seen the rest of the season, every single other game aside from against the Atlanta Falcons, because this is a better defense that you're going up against. Not only familiar defense coordinator DeMeco Ryans, you got Azeez Al-Shaair back there. They're really good on the edges. Maybe they could be had in the middle of that defensive line. So looking at how the 49ers, how well they played, going less horizontal and more vertical in the run game, more power, more gap stuff, getting between the tackles a little bit more. Maybe that's the recipe for not only how to beat the Falcons, but it could be a better way to play against the Houston Texans. And it might just be better for the 49ers the way they're built right now to go straight ahead and say, all right, look, we're just going to be nasty with it and try to beat you through your face, because the rest of it hadn't been working most of the year.
Yeah, and that's tough because you look at a running back like Christian McCaffrey, and he is a terrific zone runner. Just being able to kind of find that hole, figure out exactly where it's at, that cutback lane, put his foot in the ground, and get north right now. He does an exceptional job at that. So being able to utilize that, I don't think you can kind of get away from outside zone, but you can maybe lean a little bit more on the inside zone, gap scheme, do a little bit more of that. And maybe that's where the 49ers probably are more comfortable with doing. Sometimes with the outside zone stuff, it kind of depends a little bit more on, what type of linemen do you have? Do you have linemen that can't move and get out in space? And traditionally, the 49ers have had those guys. Maybe right now, that's the issue. They don't move as well as they have in the past. And that's not me saying that for certain. I haven't watched them to know, are they not moving as well with the outside zone? But I'm just thinking, why are they running maybe potentially better with inside runs as opposed to the outside? And that's the kind of thing that came to my head. Maybe guys don't move as well as they once had in the past.
And they've kind of changed their, because it used to be like they want the most athletic offensive lineman getting out on the move, and then you started to see a little bit of a change, and they were like realizing that teams know how to play against them. They're going to try really hard to crash the edges, and the 49ers wanted to look for a little bit more knockback in the running game, and they started drafting a little bit bigger offensive linemen. The Aaron Banks pick, I remember, shocked you and I, Croc, when we looked at how he played, and was like, man, he doesn't move like the outside zone classic offensive lineman you would expect, and they drafted him very high. And so I think they wanted to have a little bit more physical offensive line to be able to still run the outside zone stuff, but be able to run some other things too, and keep teams honest, keep defenses honest in the run game against them. And then when you consider, Trent Williams is still a really good offensive lineman. He may not be playing at his prime level that he was a few years ago, but he's not as athletic as he was when he was 27, right? I think that's fair to say. Jake Brendel's in his 30s. Dominic Pooney's playing on a bum knee. So, yeah, I think it's fair to say that this isn't as athletic of an offensive line as they even were in all of these players' primes or when they're all healthy up front. And so, yeah, maybe just go. And I think the mental aspect of it too, Croc, right? Once you start going forward and you start winning in the run game, and that's going to help your offense. You don't have to drop back as much. You don't have to have as many third and longs. And so it's going to, the offensive linemen, I think, are going to have just a lot more fun playing that brand of football. And that's what it looked like against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday night. And we'll see if they can continue that. And it's a huge key for the 49ers, and it always is for Kyle Shanahan. I don't know if he's going to get to his 40 runs that he likes to hit, but the Shanahan offense not running the ball was really strange for the first 6 weeks of the season. It just didn't feel right. The game against the Falcons felt more right. Like, that's the way Kyle Shanahan wants to play.
I bet most casual people would be shocked to hear that the 49ers aren't. And when I say casual people, just people that just know what the 49ers identity has been throughout the Kyle Shanahan tenure. It's like, oh, they get a good offensive line play and they run the ball extremely well. And if you told them, like, actually they're was 5-2 right now, and it's not because of the run game at all. A lot of people, I think, would be surprised to hear that. So
there's a lot of surprising stuff the 49ers are doing right now.
Yeah, it's a good thing, because when you're still winning games, and I tell this to my coaches as well, it's a lot better and more fun when you find all these areas you can improve on, and you're working hard to work towards that goal, and you're winning football games. And 49ers are 5-2 and we can nitpick. I saw someone comment, and we'll probably talk about it in a little bit, but he says in the chat, anybody else worried about our special teams coverage, or is it just me? And it's like, you can find all these things, and it's like, man, you can get better at special teams coverage. You can get better at the run game. You can get healthier. And, oh, by the way, with needing to improve on all those things, still 5-2 right now.
Then you have the Avengers. A 5-2 football team right now for the San Francisco 49ers. If you said the Niners going to be less than 3.5 yards per carry on the season, not without their starting quarterback, no Bosa, no Warner, no Kittle for a lot of the season, and 5-2. This 49ers team is doing a lot of surprising things. And so we'll see if they can keep that going in Houston on Sunday. More keys to victory with the 49ers have to do, and some questions. Can they do some of these things that they might want to do against the Houston Texans to win in week 8 next? This episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss, because right now new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Couldn't be easier. You pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. Love the way FanDuel has so many different ways to play. Building your own parlays, player props. You can even follow live lines during games and get in on live in-game betting. And, of course, weekly lines, they're already up, not only this week, but all the way through the end of the football season for the NFL. You can bet on college football. You can make your Sundays, your Saturdays, your Thursdays, your Mondays all more exciting. How about World Series baseball, NBA season going now, NHL as well, and a whole lot more. So make it a little bit more fun. Put a little something else on the line, right? It gets a little more exciting when you got something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. And this episode is also brought to you by Rippling. And if you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried in hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's SAD, software as a disservice. So that's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. And by uniting employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes all the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software created. So right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. Learn more at rippling.com. That is Rippling, RIPPLING.com/lockedonnfl. That's rippling.com/lockedonnfl for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Croc. Run game important. Keep Mac Jones upright. Keep him healthy, keep him in the pocket and safe while he tries to deliver passes, whether the run game is working or not. I have a feeling there's going to be a little bit more George Kittle in the pass game this week, and hopefully he's just as impactful in the run game as we saw last week with 49ers all of a sudden just breaking free once George Kittle rejoined the lineup. Again, not all on him. It wasn't all because of his individual blocks, but something there in the secret sauce with George Kittle involved that makes a lot of that go. Looking at the other side of it, Croc, I put in on the background, revved up on defense. And there's no Bryce Huff in this game. He's got a hamstring injury. We got to talk about hamstrings in a second. But how do you – so the only two players the 49ers had – this is not like a new development. We knew this coming into the season. The only two players that you'd be like, hey, who could go get the quarterback and create their own pressures? It's Nick Bosa, and then you hope that Bryce Huff can do that off the edge. Well, they're both gone now. And Huff was a big part of creating pressure in that last win for the 49ers too. You know, without Huff in that game, does it change things for the 49ers? So now how do you get pressure? How do you get sacks? You
would think that you blitz a lot more, but you talked about the blitz rate is like even lower without even knowing Huff was going to be out there.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. And so, and one thing that Robert Saleh has done is he'll bring 4, but he doesn't bring the 4 defensive linemen. He'll kind of overload one side, bring a blitzer on one side, then drop somebody out on the other side. So it creates a little bit of confusion, and it gets the results of a blitz, but you still have, the same amount of players, in coverage that you would have had with a 4-man rush. And so that's a wrinkle that I've liked from Robert Saleh, but man, if you got to bring 5, you got to bring 5, I think, in this case, against the Houston Texans, because you don't want to let CJ Stroud hang out and carve you up. And one of the other things I've seen is, it's not that the 49ers haven't displayed good motors, but it's one of the biggest, it's just effort. And it's one of the most important things that great pass rushers have is a big time motor. So maybe your first move, maybe you're not a great pass rusher and your first move doesn't get there. Do not stop. They do not have a good offensive line in Houston. And I think we'll go back to what Jason Aponte said here in the chat. Yeah. The Texans offensive line is what some people believe the 49ers offensive line is. So you can beat that offensive line, and CJ Stroud will hold on to the football. So do not stop. Motor. Go get after the quarterback. Second effort sacks, third effort sacks, cleanup sacks, coverage sacks. We saw one last week from Sam Okuwana. It was completely a coverage sack. It was it wasn't a quick win, but you've got to keep pressure on the quarterback. And I want to see that motor revved up. And there has been some plays, and I don't want to call out, certain players because, I don't want it to be a thing or anything like that. So you've seen it from the rookies, seen it from some veterans. I want to see him keep going. There's been plays where it's like, yeah, okay, I'm just chilling over here now, and I've got thwarted on my initial attempt, and that's pretty much going to be it for me in this pass rush. I want to see a relentless pass rush, because right now that might be all you have going for you, and hope that they make some mistakes up front and CJ Stroud holds the ball too long, because I have a feeling with the way this game is and the way these teams are built, they're both really good against the run. So if it comes down to whose pass rush is better, well, that's going to be a Houston Texans massive advantage, I think, in this football game. But I thought it was going to be an Atlanta Falcons advantage. It ended up not mattering because the Niners are running the ball so well. So if you can run the ball, the pass rush is going to be automatically muted from the opposing defense. But if you can't run the ball, if it's 3.5 yards per carry, 3.2 yards per carry for Christian McCaffrey in this game, and Mac Jones is dropping back, and you've got that pass rush coming at you, one of the best in the NFL, it could be a long day for Mac Jones. So it's a really interesting matchup, and I think both defenses are going to come out on top, which makes for an ugly game, a low scoring game. So even if you are not running the ball well, maybe you are even getting pressured a little bit, the thing you can't throw on top of that is mistakes, because it's going to be the big play, the big interception, the big turnover, or maybe you send the house on a blitz and they're able to hit a long pass on you. Who makes the big play in the pass game? Who makes the big turnover is probably going to be the story in this game, because I don't know if there's going to be a lot of scoring. Croc.
And just watching these teams play, I've watched the Houston Texans. I've obviously watched the 49ers, whether it's with Mac Jones or Brock Purdy. And I believe under duress, right, under situations that are a little bit less than ideal, I like the way the 49ers quarterbacks have performed over what I've seen from CJ Stroud. So if we're saying, all right, your 49ers got to run the ball very well and do this, do that. If the 49ers can do that and still manage to throw the ball just how they've done throughout the season, I think the 49ers are better suited to be able to deal with whatever pressure comes. Now, for the 49ers, you do have to get pressure on CJ Stroud. And can you do that without having Huff out there, without having Nick Bosa? Because, yeah, like Jason Aponte said, that line hasn't been good, and it's not anything new. I mean, they were terrible last year. I was saying that last year. Like, the Houston Texans O-line is what the 49ers think they have. I mean, they were bottom 3 in the entire NFL. It was so bad, where the 49ers were middle of the road. And the middle of the road made it to where, hey, it's serviceable. Like, you can work with this. You would like it to be a little bit better, but it could be worse. And that worse that it could have been is what Houston Texans had then and still currently have now.
They got their own juice. They got Juice Scruggs on the offensive line. I'm pretty sure he's playing in front of Laken Tomlinson these days at left guard for the Houston Texans. And they got rid of their best offensive tackle in Laramie Tunsil and traded him away. And they drafted a guy high in the second round, Ariante Ursary. That's always going to be a baptism by fire in the NFL for a rookie that's expected to come in and start, especially at offensive tackle. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of growing pains. And guess what? They're bad again on the offensive line. So it has been rough. And look, and I think CJ Stroud isn't the most shining example of playing, super quick and playing with timing and getting the ball out of his hands in, the 2.5 seconds that some quarterbacks do. Big game hunting a lot of time, and I think that can hurt them in some cases. They also play pretty fast and try to run a lot of plays, but they don't have a high success rate either, which creates just a weird, chaotic offense. Like you can go 3 and out real quick when you're running fast, but then you're not getting first downs, right? So it's an odd offense, and yeah, they just still haven't figured out that side of the ball. They figured out the defensive side of the ball, Croc. So let's talk Kyle versus DeMeco Ryans and get to the latest injury report as well, including what's going on with all the hamstrings for the San Francisco 49ers. Next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. And this week's moment that moved the game forward, I'm going to go to a 4th and 1 play, the 4th and 1 stop by Chase Lucas for the 49ers. And I want to see that turn into an interception in this game. Is this the week that the San Francisco 49ers get off the schneid and actually intercept a stinking football? I don't care if it's a big man interception, a big old 95, Alfred Collins getting his antennas for arms up there, batting the ball down and catching it and rumbling the other way. Turnovers. Turnovers is going to be huge in this one. The team that makes that big play, and it might only take one big play in a low-scoring game, is going to be the winner, I have a feeling. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, go through the injury report here really quick, and I might as well put it on the screen because it's always so very long. The big changes for the 49ers from the Wednesday injury report to the Thursday injury report, and as we were recording here late Thursday night after Thursday Night Football, we don't know what the Friday injury report is yet, but usually you can tell the direction some things are going. It does feel like it's going to be Mac Jones and still no Brock Purdy. It's looking like it's not going to be Ricky Pearsall, again, still not practicing. And Kyle Shanahan was asked if, there was a setback or anything. He's just like, no, not really. It's just that it's not healing as quickly as we hoped. And I remember hearing Ricky Pearsall talk about his own knee. And it's like, yeah, it was unstable in there. It's like, oh, that does not sound great. And so Ricky Pearsall clearly not feeling ready to get back on the field for the San Francisco 49ers or get back on the practice field. And if he can't practice, he's probably not going to play either. So not looking good for Ricky Pearsall to be back for the 49ers. I think we need to highlight linebacker and cornerback because there's been multiple injuries at those spots, Croc. So let's go to, and it's for those of you watching on YouTube, it is on the screen now. You can see the full participation report for Thursday's practice. Renardo Green was upgraded. He was limited Wednesday, full participant with his toe injury, which is great news if you're fully participating on Thursday. And as long as there's no setbacks on Friday, you are going to play in the football game. So Renardo Green is looking good. Diamador Lenore, though, with the quad injury, hasn't practiced this week and did not participate in practice Wednesday or Thursday, which is not a great sign for the 49ers secondary. And then Luke Gifford popped up on the injury report, and he had a limited practice Wednesday, and it's going the wrong direction. Ended up not practicing at all on Thursday, which means there's probably something really bad going on with Luke Gifford's hamstring. And not only are the 49ers a little bit light at linebacker, obviously Fred Warner out, and now really the only guy that's played a lot of strong side backer this year, Luke Gifford, has a hamstring, did not participate in practice on Thursday. It's also a hamstring, which is what kept George Kittle out for 5 weeks, which is what has kept almost forgot that what's his name even? The 49ers fourth rounder out of Arizona last year, the wide receiver. He's been out. Jacob Cowing. Forgot he existed. He's been out 8 weeks with a hamstring. Jake Brendel
forgot his name. Never forget names.
Yeah, I forgot his stinking name. Just he's not around, and he's not even been on reports. He's just hanging out on IR and has a hamstring. And Jake Brendel's got the hamstring. It's going to be Hennessy once again getting a start now, his first start for the San Francisco 49ers. Filled in nicely for Jake Brendel last week. Bryce Huff, hamstring. What's going on with the hamstrings, Brock? Like, at some point, you might have to look at how, the dynamic warm-ups. Maybe all the data that says dynamic warm-ups is the way to go. Maybe it's not the way to go. Do you have a lot of hamstrings with your squad, Croc, in high school? I know the hammies don't act the same, and you're a lot more limber when you're younger. But the amount of hamstrings for the 49ers is a little bit silly. Johnny Dell on Twitter put up a list of hamstrings too. There's more. Pearsall had a hamstring earlier this year. Green had one. Yetur Gross-Matos. And so why all the hamstrings? What's going on there? That there shouldn't be that many hamstrings with one football team, right?
Dude, one of my most dynamic players had to sit out the game a couple of weeks ago because of a hamstring, and that was tough. And we had to find a way to kind of work around that. And then last week, leading up to the game, my number one receiver wasn't sure if we were going to have him because of a hamstring, and we've had to tread with caution throughout this week. So there might be something to that dynamic warm-ups, because that's exactly what we do. We do not static stretch prior to practice. We do a little bit more static stretching before the games, but definitely not before practice. So, I was learning in the offensive system, learning the air raid. Air raid, they don't even, like, the true air raiders, they don't even do a dynamic warm-up, or their dynamic warm-up is like pat and go. So it's just like actually pat and go, running slants, like working through those things. They don't do like high knees, butt kickers, karaoke. Like they don't do any of those things. So I look into
warming up like they treat blocking. Essentially. I remember that Baylor was the really bad one. Who was the prospect that was a total bust? Ended up being a first-round draft pick out of Baylor.
The receiver?
Wide receiver. And it was comical. Who was it?
Was he tall?
No, not tall. Fast, though. Like 4'3", 4'2" guy. Was it Coleman?
Yeah, Coleman went to the Giants, played for the Browns, I believe.
Browns? Yeah. And
he might have been drafted by the Browns.
I think he was drafted by the Browns, now that you mention it. Yeah. And which is a kiss of death anyway, but it was comical to watch. He's super fast, but he ran two routes, and when it was a run play, he just didn't leave the line of scrimmage. It was just like, this play's not for you. Chill out. When it's time to run a route, then you can run again. It was pretty wild to watch him.
Corey Coleman,
15th
overall pick in the first round, 2016.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's something that could help the 49ers. I don't know. Or I would love to hear the air raid people give us their numbers and the research on how many injuries are they having for teams who do not do any type of warm-up. I mean, outside of their pat and go, because that's unique. I wasn't bold enough to try that.
Yeah, that's too much. Corey Coleman, that means he was on, which is hilarious because that means he was on a Kyle Shanahan coordinated Browns team, right? And no wonder he was a bust, because that's the first thing you got to be able to do is a Kyle Shanahan wide receiver is block.
No, Kyle, 2015, 16, he was with Atlanta.
Oh, right. Yeah. That was after. What year was Manziel then? 14, it must have been. Right before Atlanta was Cleveland, I guess.
Manziel, I believe, was the Odell Beckham draft class.
That was 2014, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so they drafted, I want to say they drafted Gilbert first, the cornerback out of Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he was actually the Bears. I mean, Browns. He was the Browns' first pick in that draft. I want to say top 10 pick. Yeah. And he gets overshadowed because of the Manziel pick. But really, Justin Gilbert, he might have been the bigger bust.
Yeah, he was like a corner that didn't even cover that well. He was just a good kick returner. And he was fast, and I think he didn't care. Both those guys, like, that's, how you're wired is a really big part of things. And we're like, hey, he's a great athlete. Let's draft him. He's like, he just doesn't care. That's not going to go well for your NFL career, man. Anyway, a lot of players do
I
care.
think with we're talking about draft, not caring.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that the 49ers do get right. You look at just
Sure.
the guys
Yeah.
that they draft, and typically it's not a player who just absolutely does not work, because I feel like they're wired the right way and they try. Like, they give them every chance. They give themselves every chance to be able to produce at some level for the 49ers. Even if he's not a guy that ends up being a super stud, he's someone that typically can start games for you, or does well special teams, or you see some flashes. With a guy like Justin Gilbert, you didn't see any of that.
Kyle versus DeMeco. Kyle Shanahan versus DeMeco Ryans. Robert Saleh in the mix here as well. There's a lot of familiarity. They worked on the staffs together. And do you think this is a big advantage for Kyle Shanahan against DeMeco Ryans, or do you think DeMeco might have some insight into how Kyle Shanahan wants to run this football team, and maybe ways to stop it with how good his defensive unit is? And generally, when I see, 49ers versus Rams, divisional opponents, when I see, the 49ers against Falcons, there's a lot of familiarity there. And I think that's advantage 49ers. Do you feel like this is advantage 49ers, Kyle versus DeMeco in this one? Might be the edge. I mean, you might only need a couple of points here. The Texans were favored, which was a little bit surprising to me, by 1.5. But I think it's going to be a close game, an ugly game, a low-scoring game, which means whatever edge you can get, you can get. If that's one score, if that's a one extra drive where you get a field goal, that's the ball game potentially.
The familiarity part, it does play a part to a certain extent. But at the end of the day, what you put on film is what you put on film. And if there's good coaches on the other side, they're going to know what you're doing. You can tell them what they're doing, but you just have to go out there and you have to execute. And what counters do you have to the things that you like to do? So that's what I feel like Kyle Shanahan is amazing at. And I coached with a guy, Desmond Bishop. He was defensive coordinator when I was at Edison last season for the last few years. He played with the Green Bay Packers and with the Minnesota Vikings. And he talks about Kyle Shanahan. He was like, man, Kyle will show you something, and he'll show you something again. And then you're like, I got him. And he'll show you, and then boom, he hits you with the counter. And it just screws you all up. And a lot of times it's a big hitter. So the Texans are going to know the 49ers. They're going to watch film. They're going to know what the 49ers like. It's on Kyle to have those counters ready, knowing, hey, we put this on film. They know we're going to do this. We'll even show them this, kind of give them a little taste. And then we're going to come with our counter. And I think that's the best course of action when it comes to attacking someone who's very familiar with the things that you like to do.
Interesting game. I'm fascinated to see what this Texans team looks like up close, and if the 49ers can keep it going despite all of the injuries and yet more. Bryce Huff, a pretty big one for the 49ers to lose now on that defensive line with everything else they got going on the injury front. Can they keep it going? And of course, post-game, Croc and I will have it all broken down for you right here on Locked On 49ers. So stay tuned and make sure you are all subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And Croc and I back post-game right here. Locked On 49ers.